I want to first say that this is extremely disturbing testimony about some of the allegations that have been charged against the dental board. I've got a lot of concerns. I would also like to ask Mr. Robert Burns to come to the mic. He wants to speak on behalf of a different board. His name was called, but I think there wasn't enough seats. And I'd like to get him to offer his testimony and have some questions for him as well.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Robert Burns. I'm very background. I'm an inactive CPA. For about 6 years, I was a federal government fraud investigator, after which time I pursued what I enjoyed most in my life of my working career, and that being a real estate auctioneer. Unfortunately, in around 2011 or so, I noted that the executive director of the Auctioneers Licensing Board was routinely going on vacations, lying on the beach in Orange Beach, Alabama, going to Disney World for a week, visiting relatives in Oklahoma, sightseeing in New York, all during which time she was reporting that she was on the clock. As a fraud investigator, that disturbed me greatly. And so I started making public records requests to get her timesheets. She also would send emails saying she wouldn't be available for work during this entire week. So I did the appropriate thing, and I went to the Chief of Accountability for Civil Service, Mr. Patrick Lowry. He said, look, if this is substantiated, which he looked just strictly at the documents, he said, if this is substantiated, and as I'm quoting him, blatant payroll fraud, unquote. Once I've concluded the meeting with him, I sent an email to 3 of the members of the Auctioneers Licensing Board, alerting them of this and what Mr. Lowry has said. The next thing I knew, I was on the receiving end of notice of an administrative hearing for, quote, distributing out false and misleading reports, even though it was just an email to 3 board members. To this day, I am the only auctioneer in the history of this state that has ever held an auction license who had his administrative hearing videotaped by a videographer, which I'm very glad they did, because I have since publicized it everywhere I can. But at any rate, when I initially retained a defense counsel, Robert Lauren Klein-Peter. When I went in and showed him this, he said, Robert, there's no need to hire me. He said, this is utter and complete blank blank. You can fill in the blanks. And he said, I'm going to be able to shut this down with a mere letter. And he said, but unfortunately, my minimum retainer is $2,000, and I don't see you writing me a check for $2,000 to draft a letter. I pulled out my checkbook because I said, you don't know these people like I do. And he took the check. Well, it wound up not just taking a letter. The board had a second attorney who happens to be a convicted felon who prosecuted this. He's a former state senator. And he was absolutely shocked that they went forward with this, but they did. But what was most disturbing is, and I'm not going to criticize my attorney, although I wish he would have been better informed on this, he said, Robert, there is no way I'm going to allow these people to determine your fate. He said, I'm going to file a motion to have this whole matter heard by an administrative law judge. He said, and this thing's going to get kicked out of nothing flat. Well, I get there on the day of the hearing, and he says, Robert, unfortunately, there is no such provision for having it heard by an administrative law judge. So I found myself in front of the, borrowing the phrase, kangaroo court. Now, they didn't have guts enough to take a disciplinary action against me. All they did is said, we're reprimanding you, and this episode better not repeat itself. I will state that subsequent to that, the Inspector General's office did place her under investigation, and they documented the same things that I had said were going on. And in their report, they recommended, quote, appropriate disciplinary action up to and including termination, unquote. So I really wish that this provision had been in place when my hearing was in 2013. It's been a while now. But at least if this had been there, it would have shut this down. Because what happened with me was inexcusable. And that's basically the conclusion of my testimony. I know that everything's been focused on dentists, but I'm just here to say they don't have the dental board doesn't have a monopoly on corruption. So I appreciate the opportunity to address any, if anybody hasn't, well, I think you said you would, so that's it for me. So any questions you've got, I'll be happy to take.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Describe the process within the, after the hearing, you still maintain your auctioneer's license?
No, sir. I said, there is no way I'm going to put up with this. And I made a video and I threw the license in front of the camera. And after that, I found a new passion, which I guess you're familiar with. I now run a political blog, a political video blog.
I'm familiar with your highly opinionated blog there.
It is, and that's the nature of a blog, and certainly you've been featured on it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
If you've ever taken exception to it, you can go look at the auctioneer board and say, "Oh, so you folks are the one responsible for him finding a new thing to occupy his time." So.
And I believe you're a constituent. Is that correct?
No,
You're not in my district.
No, I'm Steve Parker's district.
Okay.
I've not been that hard on you. Come on.
Nah. He's fair in his own opinion. So, but no, I appreciate you coming to testify and bringing this to light. I will tell you that no individual, no citizen of our state should fear the boards or commissions that they have to be licensed under. If someone does wrong, and you have concerns, payroll fraud, things like that, no one should be penalized or punished or harassed in any way.
There are no objections. The amendments have passed. 2 more green cards. We have Nick Gautreaux in favor but not wishing to speak. Also in favor, not wishing to speak, is Alton Ashley. Closing.
Well, I think y'all have done my public comment. I think y'all did a better job than I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Though Representative Morris does sometimes like when it's a little bit more action, a little bit more Western. I'm sorry, Representative Morris, if we disappointed you today.
All right. We have a motion by Representative Ivey to report Senate Bill 260 as amended favorably. Any objection? Seeing no objection, we will report Senate Bill 260 favorable as amended.